Okay, so at the end of the last video, I rambled on for quite a bit about the importance of making a proper typeface choice for the web. So hopefully you took that to heed, did a little bit of research, and you know what font you want to go ahead with. So let's go back into Photoshop. When you start to create text in Photoshop, it will automatically generate a new layer. So you probably want to be on your highest layer that you have. You go over here, you grab the text tool, and you just need the basic version, the horizontal type tool. And then you click and you start typing. Now, you may not see very clearly what you're typing, especially if you're that far away, so it helps to zoom in. And then if you stop typing and want to get back to it like I did, just make sure you take the text tool and you make sure that it's active, that you're not starting a new line of type. And then if you didn't like that color, you can come up here in the options panel, click here, it gives you this menu, but with your swatches open, you could just reach over here and select a different color from your swatches if you already have those set up. And then of course you have the choice of what font you're going to use, and I'm just going to use one that'll probably be different than you're all using, just so I don't have any influence over your decisions here at all. And then there is the new layer that was created right here, and it will start to give it the similar title as to what you're typing in here. Then you can take your generic move tool here, and notice that the move tool now has two tools in it, the artboard tool, and we'll talk more about the artboard version, but just know that to get the move tool you just have to be on a regular layer, not actually on one of your artboard layers. And it is important as to what layer you have selected, because you might think, okay, I am on the text, I'm picking the text, I'm moving my text, and you'll actually end up moving the footer. Now there is this button here for auto select you can check, but let me show you what happens if that's not selected. So I have the footer layer, well, let's just pick the header layer, selected by accident. I think I'm going to move this, and I keep trying to move this, and actually I just moved the header. So I'm going to Command Z to back up out of that. This time I'm going to make sure I have this selected. Now I can click and drag and move that around. The other thing that you can do, you just have to be aware of when you have this turned on, is you can turn on auto select, and then the program, when you click over something, it realizes what you're trying to click on. So it changed to the header in that case. And if I can get a good selection over the text here and click and drag, it realizes I'm trying to select the text. So the object here with your new text is to play around with it, the size, the color, and you're not stuck with just these defaults here. So if you find a size that you think is ideal, you just type that in there, and then go ahead and start knocking out some more text. Like maybe you want to go ahead and mimic a menu item here. So once again, we'll grab the text tool, click, and start typing out menu items. I type these out, put about 5 spaces in between them, and I'm just going to remember that in case I think they need to be more or less spaced out. I can just go back in there with the text tool, and when I go to put these on my portfolio, or I mean on my header, all of a sudden they're going underneath. Well, that's because of the stacking order of the layers. So I must have had the cursor just above this, I don't know, error text that I made here. So just simply to fix that, I just need to make sure that the layer, by clicking and dragging, gets above the header. And I can go ahead as always and just name this talk quickly about navigating inside of Photoshop. So you have your Command minus to zoom out, and you have your Command plus to zoom back in. In addition to Command minus and Command plus, the other options that I typically use is the hand tool to move things into position, and the way I use the magnifying glass is just typically to zoom in on a section. So I'll grab it, and with scrubby zoom set, that just means that you scrub across the area and it brings it into view. And then along with the hand tool, you can put it exactly where you want. And then the last little trick that I like to use is, instead of grabbing the hand tool, just actually putting the mouse over it and double clicking, and that'll put that whole artboard that you've been using into essentially perfect view. If it's a little too close for you, you can always just Command minus back up a little bit. Okay, and then let's talk about aligning stuff in Photoshop. Now, let's say we wanted to get these things so that they're aligned together. So I don't have auto select on, so I actually have to physically go back and forth here. But let me say I get this one where I think it's looking good in the corner, and now I want to, and I can use the up and down arrow keys here too to help me get finite alignments. So let's say that I want to align this so that it's aligned to the same baseline as this text here. What I can do is select both items over here in the layers. So I have this one selected. I can shift click, or actually to select anything, yeah, command click works better, because a command click you can select things that aren't right next to each other, whereas with a shift click they have to be right next to each other. Okay, and then you have these options up here. So if I select this one that align bottom edges, boom, now we have a nice perfect alignment there. Where do I find things like the copyright symbol? Well, in most programs you're going to find that in the glyphs, and try Window, Glyphs, there it is. If not, sometimes it's under the Type menu. Bring out the glyphs, and I will get this out a little bit here and make it bigger so we can see all of what's in here. And we're just going to search through there till we find the copyright symbol. And then when I click on the copyright symbol, actually double click, it'll go to wherever my cursor is, which with this recording software it's probably no longer where it should be. Double click, there it goes, put a little space in there. So far we've just been clicking with the text tool. The other way that you can use the text tool is to click and drag, and that'll create a type area for you, and then you can type away in here or go out to your Word document and copy and paste your content in here. And what you'll probably find by default is that you have nowhere near enough leading or line space. So you'll go into your character panel by going up to Window and Character, and I reset this so it's at the default from the program, which you can see is way too little amount of leading. So we want to think in terms of web design and think that we need generous amounts of leading, anywhere from 1.4 to 1.8 of the type size. So I mean, if you really want to get out a calculator, you can say, okay, I'm using an 18-point font there, and I want to be, at least like 1 point, maybe 6, 7, that amount. That comes out to 30 points of leading, and then go ahead and plug that into here. And you can see much better. Another nice feature about artboards is if you just have one item, only one layer selected, and you use the alignment options, it automatically assumes that you're aligning to the artboard itself. So if I click this option to center my text, it centers it automatically for me within the confines of the artboard. I should probably think one step further here and make this a little more realistic. What happens when I'm on the home page to the home page button? It should probably give me some kind of indication that I'm there. So it could be as simple as selecting it here and changing that to a slightly different color in my color palette. Now the only problem is that that's the only thing on the whole website that's in that color, which may draw too much attention to it. So maybe I want to go down here into the footer and then go ahead and select that item there. But as you'll see, it's going to be very easy for us to make a whole lot of variations. But something that we definitely need to talk about here is composition in grid. Now, we'll talk about grids in a moment, but at an absolute minimum, anything that should be aligned in graphic design, or I should say anything that could be aligned, should be aligned. So earlier we said, well, it would make sense that these are all resting on the same imaginary line, and we took care of that. But what about this right here? Why isn't it aligned with this? And that's a great question. Why isn't it? That's how you want to think of as a designer. Don't ever be on the fence with your designs. Either this should be clearly not aligned with that, or it should be probably like way over here and centered. But let's go with the option of aligning it. So I'm going to select this layer, and let me see if I shift click. No, it won't select that automatically. Probably will if I turn on auto select. And yeah, you can see now both of those layers became selected just by me clicking on this one first, turning on auto select, shift clicking, turning on that one. Now I can use the left align. Now don't get too excited about the computer making all your alignment decisions for you. A lot of times you have to come in and say, well, it is aligned. I know the computer said it was, but it doesn't quite look like it is. In this case, yeah, it's not too bad. Then you might want to come back and say, well, it doesn't look like the footer needs to quite be this big. So again, with auto select on, I can select the footer. And with that footer selected, I can fly open the properties panel here and just take that height and bring it down quite a bit. I'll just kind of make a guess here, maybe 90 for the number. Then I've got to go back in here and move it down a little bit. Maybe I can do the same thing with the header. And again, I've got auto select turned on now, so it automatically put the header in there. So maybe decrease that a little bit. But it's just going to be a matter of playing around until you get exactly what you want. If you have a simpler design like this one and you just want to look for opportunities to align things, you can bring out guides. You first have to have the rulers on, so let's assume for a second here that you didn't have the rulers on. To turn them on, you just go to View, Rulers. And then you click inside the ruler, bring out a guide, and you can just do stuff like this to look for any opportunities. That's really the only ones here so far. But for those of you who have really complex designs, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these guides that I have right here so they won't interfere with what I'm about to do next. You can go up to View and you can go to New Guide Layout, and you can create some pretty complex layouts here. And in fact, this one that I had come up here is a very common one to use for web designs, where you put 12 columns, a gutter width of about 20, and you'll see that this comes up as a preset in Muse even. And you just click OK. You have that guide set up for you. And the thought behind this type of a system is that you have the possibility of, when you go to like tablet size, that you set it up so that it has 8 of these guides set to the same distances apart, and you just have 4 when you go to tablet design. That's up to you, but you can see that this would be very friendly if you had images that, you know, sometimes come across this far, sometimes come across twice that far. You could easily work with 3 columns of text in here if you had a real heavy, like, news-driven site and so on. You can do Command semicolon to make any guides temporarily disappear, and then Command semicolon to bring them back. That's a nice feature. Now let's talk about what's probably the greatest part of these artboards, is how easy they are to add new ones. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse this artboard. Somehow I got a text layer up here that I don't need. So this represents my home page. I'm going to Command minus out a little bit here, and you can see as soon as I select this artboard, 2 things happen. 1, this kind of takes on a different view, and 2, the move tool changes automatically to the artboard tool. And with the artboard tool being the choice of item that's out here, if I click here, I'll get a new exact size artboard over here. Let me just do that. So I have one there. I could click back over on this one to well, no, actually I have to do that inside of my layers. Come back here, click on this artboard here, and then I could add a new one there. Now I don't want either of those, so I'm going to Command Z one time and then Command Option Z another time to go back. Let's say that I'm at this point and all I'm questioning right now is, would this look better if I flip-flop these colors here and here? I don't want to have to start from scratch though, so how about this? Hold down the Option key and click here, and now I have a brand new artboard with identical content. If I look in my layers panel, it's artboard copy. Maybe I just want, or I mean homepage copy. Maybe I just want to change that to homepage 2. And if I close both of these artboards up, nice, neat neat and clean, and I can go ahead and start working on this one.